guys, it's Kate and I hope you're having a great day. I'm here with my Bao small watercolor block. This is 300 GSM or 140-pound cotton cold press paper and my Kuretake Art Nouveau palette. And I'm going to do kind of a fun little butterfly painting today. So I'm going to be dipping into a few of my pinks because I'm just feeling the pink today. And I'm going to work wet on dry, but we're going to be very wet. I'm just putting down some very cloudy watercolor mixes on my paper today. I'm going to cover the whole background and let it dry, but I'm going to be dipping into the Potter's Pink and the Coral Pink. And I'm going to be alternating between those two colors to make a cloudy background on my paper. And I'm just going to go slow, and I want it to be kind of light but with some good variations in the tone and the value so that we get some good variety on the sheet here. And I'm just going to work slowly down the page, keep it wet, and make sure to get my edges on here. I just want to make sure that I don't have any dry spots where the paper comes through. And then if I want to really lighten it up, I'll dip my brush into some clean water and just get that on the page so that we have some nice cloudy color going down. Letting it travel and blend and just look very pretty. Now I might go in, once I get my whole paper covered, I might go in and drop some additional color. But first I'm just making sure I get all of my dry spots. And it looks like I've got everything. So I'm going to come back in and just drop in some extra color in a few spots. And just kind of go back and forth between those two colors in my palette. And I'm not going over the lighter areas. I'm going to just go over spots where I already see some darker color, and I'm just going to add some additional color there. I might join up a few spots that just look a little bit lonely, but I am just going to keep this nice cloudy look going on here. I love this Potter's Pink color, the one I'm putting down right now. It just looks, I don't know, it's so pretty. It's like this perfect, like nude color. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So we're going to let this dry before we go on to the next layer. All right, I'm back and I've got a little kitty cat here. It's going to supervise. My paper is all dry, so I'm going to be going into two other colors now. I'm going to go into the alizarin crimson, no girl, alizarin crimson and the mauve taupe. And I am going to make, hopefully, what looks like a butterfly with my little guest. And so I'm going to start with the alizarin crimson, and I'm going to just get it nice and activated, get my brush saturated. And what I'm going to do is right here, sort of in this area, let me zoom in just a little. Okay, so in this area here, I'm going to start doing some butterfly wings. Now I'm just going to outline them for right now. So I'm going to start with two wing tops that look like they have a similar shape. Then I'm going to start bringing them down. At this point, I just want to make sure that they're pretty close to being symmetrical. And grab some more paint on my brush. I need to come down just a little bit more on this one. And I'm going to bring these up pretty close together, but I'm going to leave some space between the wings for the body. So now that I've got them outlined, I'm just going to fill them in with my brush. Then we'll have two solid color wings, and then I'm going to do the bottom wings. And we're going to have some fun with those shapes. Just going to make sure these look pretty good, and they do to me. So I'm going to get a little bit more water, go back into that same alizarin crimson, and I'm going to bring down 2 long end wings, and then I'm going to come in from the outside like this, and then let that kind of narrow and taper off. And then I'm going to fill these in also. And these are very easy shapes. And if you do kind of an outline and just go slowly, you can always kind of adjust it as you go if you don't really care for the shape. So these are my 2 wing shapes, and I'm leaving a little bit of a space, just a hint, so you can see that it's 2 separate wings. Now, while this is wet, I'm going to come in to the mauve taupe. And if you are working on a different palette, you can use really any color you want. I'm going a little bit darker. And because I'm working wet in wet, we're going to get a little bit of bleeding into the wings, which I want. But if you don't want that, you'll just want to make sure to let it dry beforehand or leave yourself some space. Then I'm just going to use the tip of my brush to put in a couple of antennae and a couple of little round marks at the end. Now, if you want to get a little bit darker, you can do that on the body, and that looks pretty good to me. So we're going to let that dry, but while this is drying, I'm going to kind of put in some little star shapes. So I'm just sort of making just a little shape like that. Very simple and doodly. So I'm just, again, outlining it with the tip of my brush and then filling it in. And I'm just going back in for more color when I need it. And what I might do is do a couple of these little star shapes in the alizarin crimson also. I'm going to do one more with this mauve taupe, which I love this color, by the way. It's like a muted purple. I'm going to add a little bit more in this one. All right, now I'm going to go back into the alizarin crimson, and I'm going to do just a couple of these. My brush is very watery, so I'm going to get some of that off there and soak up some of this excess water. Okay, and I kind of like that these little shapes are imperfect. It just adds to that little doodly look. Now you can put in as many or as few of these as you like. I think I'm going to stop here, but I'm going to dip my brush back into the alizarin crimson, and I'm going to do just a few little dots. Now some of them I might put close together in like a little cluster, and then I might have some kind of by themselves. That way it just kind of looks a little more random. And that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to let this dry and then add some detail to the butterfly. All right, we are dry, and I'm going to go back into this mauve taupe, this darker purple, and I'm going to redo the line. I like that, having that bleed there into the wings. And so now I'm just going to go over it again and make the body a little bit more solid in front of that bleed area. And I'm just going to go over my little antenna again, just like that. So next, I want to go into a little bit of a darker color. So I'm going to go right next to it, to this old mauve, and get some of that on my brush. And I'm going to do a little bit of an outline on these wings. And I'm just going to kind of follow along with my borders there. Now this is just, you can do whatever you want with the design. The only thing is that, you just want to try to keep them symmetrical. But other than that, go nuts. This is just from our imagination. So it definitely can be anything you want. Now what I am going to do is bring my wingtips down a little bit more with that old mauve. I'm going to get a little bit more water here on my brush, and I'm just going to do a light outline. But when I get down to the corner here, I'm just going to bring it out a little bit more because I want them to be a little bit more of a flowy wing, sweeping out and being a little bit longer. I'm going to add a little bit more darkness to this one because my brush had kind of run out of water a bit, so I didn't get as dark of a line on this side as I wanted, and that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to start doing some little designs. Now I'm going to make a couple little teardrop shapes here coming from the center, and I'm going to make one coming up toward the top and one kind of following along the bottom. And I'm going to make these pretty long, almost the length or the width of the wing. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Now this is where you can just have fun. You can do different patterns, all sorts of things. But for me, I'm going to keep it fairly basic. Now in the middle, I'm going to put another one of these shapes, but I'm going to make it about half the length of the others. So it'll just kind of be here in the center. Now I'm going to do a couple of circles, just like that. So I have one kind of in the gap and another one in the gap, and then one kind of coming out at the end of the shorter piece. Then I'm going to rinse my brush. Now I kind of want to choose another color, and I'm not really sure which one I want to do. Maybe we'll try one of these blues. You know what? Why don't we just go to the next one down and dip into this grayish blue, or if you're working in a different palette, any type of blue that you like. And I'm going to put some smaller dots along the outside of this wing here. And I'm just kind of letting the water come off my brush. I'm not really drawing anything. So I'm just depositing a little bit of a water bead and bringing it down to the next piece. Now I'm just going to get a little bit more color on my brush, and I'm just going to add a couple of other little designs to the bottom wings. And I'm going to keep going with this little teardrop theme, and I think I'm going to do 3 on each side, just like this. And I'm just going to let them taper in with the wing there. And I really love this. And now that I'm kind of looking at it, that mauve taupe color that I did for the body, I think I'd like to make it the darker purple, the old mauve, just like I did in the wing designs. And that way it'll add a little bit more contrast. So I'm just going to go over my color again right there to darken it up. And I think I like that a lot better. Now, if you have some shimmery or glittery watercolor, you could add that. If you have a jelly roll or anything like that, actually I do have a jelly roll, so you could add some little white dots or lines or dashes or anything to it to add a little bit of contrast to your page. That's one of the reasons why I kept the background so light in a couple of these spots. It was just so that I could make sure to keep that contrast going. So maybe I'll put some white dots around a few of these little elements here, just for another little pop of contrast. And like I said, you could do as many or as few designs on these as you want. It's just simple and fun and a very cute little whimsical butterfly. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the close-up so you can see the finished watercolor. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully did it along with me today. But if you did like it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep creating.